The X-Files premiered on the Fox network in September 1993. The adventures of two outcast FBI agents investigating aliens, monsters, and unexplained phenomenon clicked with a burgeoning interest in the paranormal and conspiracy theories, and a growing mistrust in government authority. What began as a cult classic quickly became a pop culture phenomenon that defined the 1990s and which continues to hold serious cultural cachet. The truth is out there, and we intend to find it as the Great Pop Culture Debate attempts to name the best episode of The X-Files. My X-Files are also filled with creeps, weirdos, and monsters, and that's just the men I've slept with. I'm your host, Eric Resniak. Please welcome my panelists for this episode. Our first panelist watches the movie Babe 15 times a day, and people call me spooky. It's Bob Erlenbeck.
Baram you.
There's no place like home, Bob. Next, welcome back to the pod, Kate Rakulia.
What do you mean you want me to do another podcast? And why do I have to do it right now? I just spent hours on my feet doing a podcast, all for you. I do it all for you, Eric. You know, I haven't eaten since 6 o'clock this morning, and all that was half a cream cheese bagel, and it wasn't even real cream cheese. It was light cream cheese. And now you want me to run off and do another podcast? What the hell happened to you?
Kate, what's with all the bad blood? Finally, we have an amazing guest panelist for this episode. He's a renowned sci-fi author whose books include Escape Velocity, The Sleepless, and The Villa Once Beloved, and his debut crime novel, Dead Note, was released in May 2025. Please welcome to the Great Pop Culture Debate, Victor Manibo.
Eric, you're my 1 in 5 billion.
Victor, I can see your smolder. And up in the producer booth, we have Derek Makita, who is throwing pencils at the ceiling tiles. If you're curious about how we ended up with this Scully 16, become a Patreon supporter of our little show, or listen to the 3-minute preview available wherever you listen to podcasts. And don't forget, you can head to this episode on greatpopculturedebate.com to find the listener bracket so you can play along with us at home. And with that out of the way, let's tape an X on our window and get into these debates. First up, we totally saw this coming. The panel has unanimously decided to push forward ultimate number 1 seed Clyde Bruckman's final repose, Season 3, Episode 4, which meant that 4 seed How the Ghost Stole Christmas, Season 6, Episode 6, was busted in our bracket. Next, the panel is evenly split between 2 seed Tombs, Season 1, Episode 21, and 3 seed Small Potatoes, Season 4, Episode 20. Victor, stretch your argument to see if you can capture another vote for Tombs. Kate, tell us why Small Potatoes is more than a little tale about little tales. Kate, please go first.
This one's for the shippers. The shape shippers, am I right? So this episode, another one I literally remember watching. It's written by Vince Gilligan, who I don't think he started. I think he came on after seasons 2 or 3.
He came on, he came on.
But starring Darren Morgan. This is not the first time, or not the last time we will talk about Darren Morgan, younger brother of Glenn Morgan, famed X-Files writer, who has written some incredible episodes of the X-Files and also starred as several monsters. In this one, he gets to star as Eddie Van Blunt, a monster of the week who does not have to wear a disgusting costume. The essential case involves numerous babies in a small town, all born with like prehensile tails. Classic X-Files, WTF. Turns out they're all from one fertility clinic. The plot takes a tour, though, through mummies in the attic, Skywalker baby daddies, Mulder in a very hot gray t-shirt coming onto Scully in a scene that, boy, do I remember watching.
Oh, absolutely.
It's super
foundational.
It's foundational. So, I mean, it's both like a great, fun, kind of comic, light Monster of the Week episode that nonetheless toys with the shippers who love the sort of slow burn. And it's just a super fun episode.
Victor, talk to us about Tombs.
Tombs is the second episode where we see this character. It is kind of the culmination of this story. And so I think between Squeeze and Tombs, and I'm sure we'll talk about Squeeze later, Tombs is, in my opinion, the superior episode just because it culminates and it is tenser. It is written in such a way that there is a progression that kind of is surprising. I didn't know as I was first watching this episode that it would take a turn where Mulder gets framed by Tombs in the middle of the episode. And if we think of Eugene Toombs' iconic X-Files villain, the most iconic moments actually occur in this episode rather than in the Squeeze episode. And, you know, this is also the first appearance of ADA Skinner. We get the death by escalator scene. So there are a lot of moments from this episode that are just ingrained in my memory, and I feel like a lot of fans' memories. And for those reasons, I think Tombs should move forward.
All right, great arguments. Bob, is it going to be Small Potatoes or Tombs for you?
So I initially chose Tombs, but based on Kate's argument, as well as my rewatch, I am going to switch over to Small Potatoes because there's this really great comment about the H is silent in Van Blunt. And then when they knock on the house of the Van Blunts, the H letter falls off of the front of the house. And that's the kind of attention to detail that I think needs rewarding.
There's
so
also
that's where you go.
the scene with the mummified dad's body where his tail breaks off and Mulder keeps like trying to stick it back on.
Yes, it's so good.
I actually was prepared to vote for Small Potatoes, but then I'm going to be really honest here. I'm switching it back to Tombs because Victor reminded me all the scenes that I loved that I thought were in Squeeze are actually in Tombs. So it was one of those things where, like, in my mind, and I redid a whole rewatch of X-Files, the entire effing series, including the reboot, ladies and gentlemen. Do you see how I suffer for you? I do it all for you. I really did rewatch these recently, and I just blurred them together. I do think that Tombs is the better of the Eugene Tombs episodes. So Tombs is a 2 seed, and Small Potatoes is a 3 seed. So that means that by the law of the seeds, Tombs will continue into round 2. But speaking of Adrian Toombs, the bulk of the panel wants to move forward his first appearance, 1 seed Squeeze, season 1, episode 3. But Bob has grown fond of 4 seed Leonard Betts, season 4, episode 12. Bob, do your best to keep Leonard's chances out of remission. I will contort myself to push through Squeeze. Bob, please go first.
Yeah, great. I love both of these episodes, and I love that they're against one another because I think they both explore that kind of grotesque body manipulation piece to it, right? But I think Betts leans harder really into the kind of visceral horror piece of this. The idea that a man is regenerating by consuming cancerous tissue, pretty grotesque and disgusting, right? Profoundly unsettling. Whereas I think Squeeze kind of just delivers on the suspense and the dread, but not so much that really grotesquerie type of stuff. But to break down Leonard Betts first, there's the pedigree that Betts was written by Vince Gilligan, who wrote a lot of episodes and obviously went on to great things. It's directed by Kim Manners, another legend amongst X-Files, right? The two creative forces who really defined it at its peak in a lot of ways. That alone puts it in some pretty good company. And while Squeeze does deserve the credit for giving us that unforgettable Tombs duology, is that a word? I find Betts is I find it's far more gruesome and genuinely terrifying. But I think there's major implications for the larger mythology in this episode as well. It's the episode that we get the first foreshadowing of Scully's cancer. It's not just that standalone kind of monster of the week piece. It's more of that pivotal piece for the whole show. On its own, I think it's a fantastic monster mystery. They both are, but you never quite know what you're dealing with until the truth really kind of unfolds. Even though X-Files is about aliens writ large, I think this episode reminds us of what the show does best in talking about really those monsters of the week. I don't love the alien stuff as much as I love these types of episodes. I think they really know how to do these creature feature, twisted reflections of humanity. Humanity is the villain in these pieces, not this extraterrestrial being, right? So I think those are just some interesting thoughts there that I have to get myself started, but that's my argument.
Well, I'm going to tell you what. I actually am going to switch my vote to Leonard Betts here because, to pair it off what I just said, Tombs is the better episode, as Victor pointed out. Squeeze, what Squeeze has going for it, it is the 3rd episode of the X-Files. And they were firing on all cylinders by episode 3. And I do think without this episode, the show would not have become the sensation that it was. This was the episode that everyone's talking about. We already have a Tombs episode in the Elite Eight. I do think Tombs is the better episode. I think Leonard Betts is a great episode. It's really good. And beyond that, we didn't even talk about Paul McCrane is the actual creature in this episode. And justice for Paul McCrane, killed unceremoniously by a helicopter on ER, lost his flowing locks from fame.
Off.
No, but then he was killed after by a helicopter. Both things happened.
Helicopter wanted everything.
Yeah, it was like Jaws: The Revenge, but with helicopters. Anyway, different episode. I'm switching my vote to Leonard Betts. Kate, is it Leonard Betts or is it going to be Squeeze?
I originally said Squeeze, but again, Victor's argument reminded me that Tombs is the superior episode. I don't think we need to have 2 Tombs in the bracket. And that part too at the end when he says to Scully, "You have something I need," is chilling. And the part where he rises out of the tub of iodine, some incredible images.
All right, so that's another for Leonard Betts. Victor, is it Squeeze or Leonard Betts for you?
Okay, so I know that you switched your vote, Eric, but as you were talking, you just reminded me of the iconicness and the impact that Squeeze had on the show, right? I do remember it being the third episode and like, wow, okay, so this is really it, and I'm locked in, and because of that reminder, I'm gonna stick with Squeeze.
So that's still 3 for Leonard Betts, so it will continue into round 2, folks. It's an upset already. Next, in the battle of episodes about ancient life forms that somehow survived to present day, the bulk of the panel is in deep for 3C Quagmire, Season 3, Episode 22, but Bob is out in the cold in his defense of 2-Seed Ice, Season 1, Episode 8. Victor, tell us why Quagmire is a great lake. Bob, tell us why we need to stop, collaborate, and listen about ice, baby. Bob, please go first.
Again, I just put quarters in the magic fingers. But anyway, Ice was a nice surprise for me because I don't remember ever having seen it before I did the research for this episode. I know that I won't win. The powers of Queequeg is just insurmountable in this moment.
You can't go up that little Pomeranian bitch.
But I really do need to give credit to Ice because to me, it's one of the scariest episodes of the entire series that I've experienced. This is the X-Files delivering on that full-blown horror movie in 45 minutes. It's the episode that was brought to us by another 2 X-Files legends, including James Wong, director David Nutter. The setup is simple but effective. We're in an isolated research station in the Arctic, paranoia simmering in a place where no one can escape. The supposed monster is an ancient alien parasite unearthed from those ice cores, millions of years old, that is terrifying on its own, but the viewer is to think that's the threat. But what makes it really unforgettable is that it's really about the people that are the threat in this situation, where that infection or that perceived infection that other people may have, they create this paranoia, this spiral where alliances fracture, the suspicions run wild, everyone becomes convinced that their survival is going to depend on turning on one another. It's tense, it's claustrophobic, it's brutal at times. And again, I think that the X-Files is best when it holds a mirror up to humanity. And my final plea is it brings us this amazing moment of Felicity Huffman totally losing her shit. I mean, she is batshit crazy at the end when everybody realizes that she has the infection. Her scandals aside, no one can do the how she plays batshit at the level that she does. So.
Yep. Sorry, Felicity, but I'm also not sorry. All right. Victor, talk to us about Quagmire, if you wouldn't mind.
Yeah, so I'm in a bit of Quagmire here because these are 2 equally strong episodes. I agree with what Bob said. A lot of it, Ice, as tense and as well written as it was, it didn't need to be an X-Files episode. It could have been any sci-fi property. It's basically Alien that just happens to be on an Antarctic research station. And I guess this moves me into like my rubric in deciding which ones I want to kind of push for. I want the episode to be true to the ethos of the show as much as possible. It cannot be any other property. No other show or movie can tell this story. And Quagmire does that really, really well. The monster of the week is a Loch Ness type monster that Mully and Scully Mulder and Scully have to investigate.
Mully and Scully.
Yes, and for the most part, it feels like a Jaws kind of episode. People get bitten and consumed by this monster in the lake, but then there is a moment about 75% in where Mulder and Scully get stuck on a rock and they have a deep conversation that ties into everything that the show is about belief, about pursuing, what you believe to be true and the cost of that. And for those like 5 minutes on the rock alone, this episode just like deserves at least to go to the next round, if not further.
Yeah, that
the just
rock
slightly
piece.
offshore rock.
Yes, which is hilarious. They find that it's just off the shore, but they don't realize it.
If they realized it, they would have never had that conversation.
Exactly.
Exactly. And that conversation really is great. I remember watching that episode and being like, this is genuinely good television. Kate, is it going to be Ice or Quagmire for you?
Ice is a great episode, but I completely agree with you, Victor. It kind of doesn't have that special X-Files meta sauce, and Quagmire absolutely does.
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and keep with Quagmire myself. So we will be moving Quagmire into round 2. In another unanimous decision, One Seed Home, Season 4, Episode 2, is receiving the pride, the love from the panel, which meant that 4 Seed Beyond the Sea, Season 1, Episode 13, is being set adrift in our bracket. But Kate, you wanted to say something about C.
This is an extraordinary episode. It has insane guest stars, some of the best guest stars ever, including Twin Peaks Major Briggs, Don Davis as Dad Scully. This is the first time we really get a sense of Scully's family, her background in a way that's really like resonant. He calls her Starbuck. This is how we know why she will name her dog Queequeg someday. So like the ghost, the seed of Queequeg is in this. It also stars Earth Angel Brad Dourif as incarcerated serial killer Luther Lee Boggs, who is really working Scully's last skeptical nerve. This episode is so great because it's one of the first times, I think it might be the first time, that their belief systems switch, where Scully is the believer and Mulder is the skeptical one. And it's just such an interesting dynamic to the way that they can flip like that and still remain completely true to who they are as characters. It's just a great episode. It's a great episode.
It is, and I don't think there are any bad episodes on this 16.
No, they're not.
They're not. And that is not to say there are no bad episodes of the X-Files, because there are, in fact, several many terrible episodes.
That could be an entire podcast episode.
Yes,
the worst episodes. Yeah. This is a great episode, and I'm so glad that Kate was able to speak on it, because it really is a very special episode of the show. With that being said, we are going to move home into round 2. Next, the panel is evenly split between 2 Season 2 classics, 3 Seed Humbug, Season 2, Episode 20, and 2 Seed De Hand de Verletz, I'm sure I butchered that, Season 2, Episode 14. Kate, tell us why you love De Hand so much. Could it be Satan? I will bite the head off a chicken as I geek for Humbug. I'll go first. So I actually love both of these episodes, and I think they both should be in the Elite Eight, because the way I howled at those stupid kids getting massacred in the school board Satan worshipping episode, spectacular. No notes. I loved the whole thing. But while De Hand is a romp, Humbug is truly special, in my opinion. It took viewers into a world most of them never see, the everyday lives of circus sideshow performers. It humanized these characters in a very real way, even as it gave us one of the most horrifying creatures in the entire series in the form of the vestigial twin serial killer. It was also hilarious. This was the first intentionally comedic episode of The X-Files, and that tone would pop up in numerous other episodes in the series, including a good chunk of the 16 on our bracket. Would episodes like Bad Blood or Clyde Bruckman's Final Repose exist without Humbug? Maybe, maybe not. Fun fact, the episode was written by Darren Morgan, this is not the first time you've heard that name, who not only won an Emmy for his writing on this show, not for this episode, but he also guest starred as the Fluke Man in The Host. That was the dude who wrote this episode. So wild stuff. But Kate, talk to us about Die Hand die Verletz.
Humbug is terrific, especially as the first Darren Morgan written episode, especially as the first explicitly comedic episode. But I gave my edge to Die Hand die Verletz. I didn't see this on the first time around. I just caught this on a rewatch. And so in some ways it was like this magical like gem that I uncovered that like it waited 20 years for me to see it. But it's really clever, really terrifying. It's funny and also horrifying in the way that I think some of the best X-Files home are. Written by Glenn Morgan and James Wong, quote unquote, based on Morgan's idea to feature a snake eating a man in an episode, which I love that as just like a germ. It's like, we gotta have a snake eat a man, and maybe that man should be Bulldog from Frasier. Like, and indeed it was. So it's the last episode that they wrote before they went off. They briefly left the X-Files and were developing other projects, and they came back again, I think, in the 5th season. So at the end of it, when the real, like, you know, demonic Mrs. Paddock teacher who comes and like starts raining toads and chaos upon this small town, when she leaves, she writes a goodbye. It's been nice working with you. It's kind of an in-joke about Morgan and Wong being like, bye. It's been fun.
Oh.
It is the first episode directed by Kim Manners, and it is about a PTA board that are actually like lapsed Satanists, but it's actually about religious hypocrisy and the way that this sort of, especially in institutions like schools, that this sort of like idea of religion when it's only convenient to you is going to come back and bite you in the ass in some way. Mrs. Paddock is going to show up. She's going to take your kids' hearts and eyeballs. She's going to like make the fetal pig come to life in an absolutely terrifying sequence that's also just fantastic. Do I always think when I see water swirling down drains, I'm like, what way is it going? Is the devil nearby? Are we in the other hemisphere? Is that a real thing? It's just a really scary, creepy episode that is perfect in and of itself.
Yeah, again, I wish these could both be in the Elite Eight, but they cannot be. Victor, is it going to be, I'm not going to say the German name again because I'm butchering it, is there going to be Humbug?
It's going to be Die Hand for me. This has all the hallmarks of an episode that, number one, is written specifically for me, but also that makes a great X-Files episode.
All right, Bob, is it going to be Die Hand or is it going to be Humbug?
So I'm going to stick with Humbug. When Humbug came out with regards to the subject matter and the sideshow freak show piece to it, this was a newsworthy episode that this was covered by a lot of entertainment outlets at the time because of the tattooed guy in it. He got a lot of play. It really exposed the show to a broader audience that may not watch the X-Files, and I think it gave it a little bit of a more pop culture clout than the other one. So I'm sticking with Humbug.
They're real, actual practicing circus freaks too, right? Like
that is right.
They are.
Yep.
They actually are. Yep. So seeds. Die Hand is the 2 seed and Humbug is the 3 seed. So Die Hand will continue into round 2. Finally, in round 1, we have 2 more unanimous decisions by our panel. 1 seed Bad Blood, season 5, episode 12, exsanguinated the chances of 4 seed Mulder and Scully meet the Weremonster, season 10, episode 3, while Syzygy, season 3, episode 13, proved that synchronicity is more powerful than a fluke at the expense of the host, season 2, episode 2. But Victor, you wanted to speak on Mulder and Scully meet the Weremonster.
I do, and I want to, do an a eulogy to the only entry from the reboot in our bracket, I believe.
Yep.
This episode, written and directed by Darren Morgan, is just such a smart and funny kind of encapsulation, not only of again, the X-File ethos, which I'm going to be talking a lot about, but also about what the X-Files reboot is supposed to be, or at least what the writers and the actors intend for it to be. There's a lot of questioning at the top of the episode of Mulder being like, what am I doing here? Why are we still pursuing these questions when the answers are all online and or have been all debunked, which is also, I think, resonant to the audiences at the time when this came out, where it's like, why are we rebooting something that was already settled? Right. So because of that, and then exploring those questions in the context of a monster that you think, Mulder and Scully are chasing this monster that's been terrorizing people, killing people by biting them and eating them. And so there's this mystery that ties into the themes of what makes a human being a human being, and it explores the absurdity of human life, going and getting a job, and just kind of watching porn and getting a dog and all those moments, and putting that in the context of what Mulder is going through about his life and questioning the choices that he had, that he's made, and putting it in a comedic episode. I think that it was just juggling a lot of balls and doing it really well.
100% agree with that. Bob, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, I just want to say Rhys Darby is amazing in this episode.
Yes.
He's the monster, but they are in a graveyard during one of the scenes, and there is a gravestone for Kim Manners in that scene.
Yeah.
I think that's just a really lovely call out to him who had passed away. So,
Kate, you wanted to speak on the host.
So the host is Darren Morgan again. He is this absolutely disgusting human-sized parasite called the Fluke Man. I believe he's the younger brother of Glenn Morgan, correct? I just love the idea of my brother will do that. We could put him in that costume. He can roll around in the sewer in human feces. We can do it. So, I am a slut for literal monsters. This episode is so gross and so creepy. And we said before, Tombs, or Squeeze rather, was episode 3. This is episode 2.
Yep.
There's there's the pilot, and then they're like, how about a parasite that is a man in the sewers? How about we do an episode about that? And it just scarred people for life. He's still like, when people think of monsters from the X-Files, they see the Fluke Man, which is this like pale lump of a humanoid creature with a great sucking maw.
I'm right here, Kate. That's exactly what they say about me on every bathroom wall from here to DC.
Fantastic. Anyway, it's a great episode, and I just like Darren Morgan is like the X-Files MVP in every single possible way.
Totally true, yeah. Sadly, it is going out because it's up against Syzygy. Yeah, so Syzygy will move into round 2. And that's the end of round 1, folks. We're going to take a quick break to go look for Queequeg. Where did that dog go? We'll be right back.
My fellow pop culture enthusiasts, the fate of the cinematic universe, the very fabric of fandom itself hangs in the balance. Are you tired of your voice going unheard? Do you have strong opinions of the merits of the prequel trilogy? Do you believe that pineapple belongs on pizza? Well, I do. It's time to make your voice count. Visit greatpopculturedebate.com and cast your vote in our crucial pop culture polls. Your opinion matters. Your vote can shape the future of fandom. Don't let others decide for you. Go to greatpopculturedebate.com and make your voice heard. Together, we can build a better pop culture world.
And we are back for round 2 of our Best X-Files episode debate. Before we get into the Elite 8, I'd like my panelists to share their social media, what else they're working on, and the very first episode of the X-Files they can remember watching. Bob.
You can find me at DisNerdBob on Blue Sky and Instagram and I guess anywhere, and chat with me, or you can join our Discord through Patreon. And the first episode I watched, I don't know what the episode was. I don't remember it. I remember talking to you, Eric, and you saying, "Oh, X-Files is on tonight. Have you watched that yet? You should watch it. This is great." And it wasn't a great episode for that first time that I tuned in. It had to do with one where he had to put he put the stuff in the window, right? He would put something in the window to signal.
An X in
it
the
was
window.
like one of those stories, and it didn't make a lot of sense to me.
Sure.
But then I remember Kate loving it, and she picking out like these Monster of the Week episodes and this, that, you got to watch this, you got to watch that. And that's what kind of hooked me. So thanks, Kate. No,
You're
thanks,
welcome.
Eric.
Drag her. Drag
exactly
her.
right.
Yep. Awesome. Kate, where can people find you, what you're working on, and your first X-Files memory?
So nominally, I am on Instagram at GomezRack. I'm writing a book. I don't know what it is, but it's out there. I'm doing it. Hooray. And it's interesting. I feel like my first X-Files memory, I watched an episode that's like a prison episode. There's like something, their maggots are involved. And again, it wasn't a great episode, but I was still watching it when it was on Friday nights. But here's the thing. I'm pretty sure it was my aunt. So it's really my Aunt Carol who was watching the show and was like, "Oh, I like to watch that." So I just started watching it, and there was also Entertainment Weekly published an anthology edition of all, like a guide to all of the X-File episodes, and I might even still have it.
Yep.
Yeah, but I was not from the jump. My fiance was from the jump. He's like, "I was watching it on the first episode."
He is a trendsetter. He's an icon.
He is. He's the moment.
I'm going to take a moment of promotion here and say, in the Aunt Goonie vein, if you do not know, the best Buffy the Vampire Slayer episode is available right this very minute as you listen to this on our Patreon exclusively. You have to become a Patreon subscriber to listen to it, but it is there. Listen to it. Kate's on that episode. It's a lot of fun. So, Victor Manibo, we are so delighted to have you with us for this episode. Where can people find you? What are you working on? And your first X-Files memory?
Yeah, I'm Victor Manibo on all socials. I mostly spend time on Blue Sky and Instagram, kind of TikTok, but I really shouldn't be there as much as I am. And I'm working on releasing a book in November, so like in a month. I'm coming out with The Villa Once Beloved, which I think you mentioned at the top of the show. It's a gothic horror set in the Philippines. Lots of creepy, spooky, yuki stuff happens. Yeah, as for my first X-Files episode or memory, I was in it from the very beginning. I saw the pilot when it came out. I think it was delayed when it aired in the Philippines where I was living at the time, so I must have seen it like a year later. But the very first like indelible memory of the X-Files that I have is the Red Speedo. No, I'm kidding. Eugene Toombs in Squeeze. Squeeze as an episode has a lot of, again, iconic moments, and we've been saying that a lot. This is where Mulder says, "Do you think I'm spooky?" This is where you get that like scene where they like barge in with their flashlights, and this is again the the most like memorable villain of the X-Files, I would say.
Great. Thank you very much. The best place to follow us is on Blue Sky at gpc.bsky.social or at Great Pop Culture Debate on Instagram or TikTok. You should also make sure to subscribe to our page on YouTube where we're posting original video content. But what you really need to do right now is to sign up for our weekly newsletter. It comes out every Tuesday at noon and it tells you about everything coming out in pop culture that week. Sign up by finding the link on this episode at greatpopculturedebate.com or via our link tree on any of our social media accounts. I couldn't tell you the first episode of the X-Files I watched, but I was definitely in very early in season 1. The thing that I remember of the X-Files is I didn't have a lot of things that I could do with my father. We did not mesh in like any way, but we could both watch this show together. We both enjoyed this show individually and could talk about it. And I recall I would be babysitting on Friday nights and I would get home just in time to watch the X-Files with Dad. And that was kind of a bonding thing. Like that was one of the few things we could do together. So this is one of those shows that I, like your Aunt Goonie, Kate, I think it had a cross-generational appeal.
Yeah, it did.
And I think there was something very special about that in a way that I'm not sure we have with a lot of shows today. So let's get into round 2 so I can make my meetup with Deep Throat, who is my informant. Yeah. We have a bunch of unanimous decisions by the panel this round. First up, 1-seed Clyde Bruckman's final repose could see the final fate of 2-seed Toombs because Toombs is out, man. We just talked about how important he was to the series overall, but it's Clyde Bruckman's final repose. We haven't talked about it at all, and I would like to speak a little bit on it. I know I haven't prepared you to do this, but Kate, can you talk a little bit about Clyde Bruckman?
It's a really special episode. It's written by Darren Morgan. Mm-hmm. I believe it won an Emmy for writing.
It did.
And it won an Emmy for its guest star, Brain.
Peter Boyle?
Peter Boyle.
Yes, thank you. Peter Boyle of Young Frankenstein and many other things. It is a beautifully written, deeply melancholy, completely ethos of the X-Files. It is about belief. It is about fate. It is about what is and is not the truth, and the absurdity and variety of life and things you can't know, like things that are beyond you. So Peter Boyle plays an insurance salesman who has a very particular kind of psychic ability. He is a clairvoyant for how people will die, which, as you can expect, is a very spooky thing to have and difficult as an insurance adjuster or an insurance salesman, because he is frequently telling his clients exactly how they will die and how awful it is, and then is trying to sell them policies. But the sort of plot mechanic is that there is a serial killer who doesn't understand why he's sort of like compelled to do these things, feels like it's fated, feels like he can't escape it, and he's killing psychics because he thinks that they should have seen it coming. So Mulder and Scully get called in to solve this, series of murders of psychics, and they end up, Clyde Bruckman ends up finding one of the bodies and gets pulled into the investigation. Of course, he knows a lot, so they're like, what's his deal? It just becomes this wonderful character study. It's a great Scully episode. It's such a good episode. There, that's my Clyde Bruckman top of my head thoughts.
It's amazing. Thank you very much.
You're
because
welcome.
We hadn't talked about it at all.
Yeah.
Next, I believe it's another unanimous decision as 3-seed Quagmire is taking the bait and devouring 4-seed Leonard Betts. But Bob, you did want to say something on Betts before we moved it away.
Yeah, I just want to make sure I call out on Leonard Betts before he goes. Just as a kind of fun fact about it, it was the most watched episode because it did air after the Super Bowl that year. So it is a highly, highly rated episode.
All right, so next it's another unanimous decision, this time for 1-seed Home, as the Peacock Boys would continue to keep it in the family all the way into the Final Four, meaning 2-seed Dehan Differlets is Southern Fried. We've talked about Dehan Differlets. Victor, I haven't teed you up for this, but do you want to talk a little bit about Home? Again, we haven't talked about it at all.
A little. I can talk a lot about Home. I think this episode is amazing. I think
I could talk for days.
Yes, honestly, I could talk for days because it is like, I think it's just a strong episode, a strong hour of TV. Like, you can compare it to the best episodes of the best TV shows, and it holds its own. It's got it's dealing with like large themes about the past and progress. It deals about family. The premise is Mulder and Scully investigate the death and burial of this highly deformed, mutated baby. They think this might be an X-file, but it might not be. And in a kind of reversal, we see that at least in the beginning, Scully's the one who's prodding on the investigation. She's the one who wants to believe, and that ties into, again, the larger story about Scully and motherhood, which is a strong theme, obviously, of this episode. Without giving spoilers away, but can we do spoilers? Yeah. So
yes, we can do spoilers
Okay.
on a 30-year TV show.
I mean, listen. To be fair,
But if you don't know,
yeah,
if you don't know what's coming in Home, like you don't want to spoil it for anyone.
Exactly, because it's so good. To be fair, on rewatch, in preparing for this podcast, I noticed that the layering of that mystery and that reveal, you could see it coming depending on how attuned you were to what was going on, not just in the episode, but in the show as a whole. But it's still like a great revelation when it comes, and it does hit you. But then the show does not end there. It goes further. It has a lot of references to just conservatism, small c conservatism in general, and how that affects small towns, in as much as the Peacock family represents that clinging to the past, that town represents something else, and you see Mulder and Scully grappling with those large themes. Is it in keeping with the ethos of the show, or like the main themes of the show about truth and faith and all that? Not necessarily, but it is, again, what makes it comparable to other great episodes of TV is just it's dealing with these big, important themes that are kind of timeless.
Yeah, would you say that it's wonderful, wonderful?
Oh, God, yes, it is wonderful, wonderful. The music is great. The production value is great. The use of the white Cadillac, the use of baseball first as a pastime at the top of the episode, and then as a weapon later on. Just the symbolism is so strong, and you can see that every detail is well thought out.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Victor.
The
So we are going
Peacocks
to
would want to make America great again.
They would.
Just
They
gonna
would.
say it.
They definitely would.
Yes, excellent. So we'll be moving home into the final four. Finally, in round two, one more unanimous decision for the panel as 1 seed Bad Blood is vamping for more time, which meant that 3 seed Syzygy was unceremoniously dispatched, much like guest star Ryan Reynolds at the very start of that episode. And as Victor pointed out before we started recording, pre-surgery Ryan Reynolds. But Kate, you wanted to speak on Syzygy.
I said I was a slut for monsters. I'm also a slut for crazed cosmic G-spot teen girl psychosis. Like this is a super fun episode. Also a very comic episode. An episode kind of like Bad Blood that like puts Mulder and Scully on two kind of parallel tracks where they're not getting along and they're annoying each other, and it's all because this sort of like cosmic synchronicity in the stars under which these two teen girls were born 16 years ago, and now they're turning 16. It's back again, and it's just making everyone in the town completely insane. And it's not like, it doesn't have like a great sort of reveal other than like the sort of like things that we can do to each other when like what other things are affecting our ability to like be people in the world and be with each other, because it just sort of ends like once the convergence happens, everything stops. But hate him, wouldn't want to date him is iconic, and I do say it to myself to this day.
And great advice, by the way, ladies, because men are terrible. And with that, we have our final four. We're going to take a quick break to do it doggy style so we can both watch X-Files. We'll be right back. Good evening. I'm not Baba Wawa, and this is the Great Pop Culture Debate. In the ever-evolving landscape of pop culture, are you finding it difficult to keep up? The debates, the trends, the opinions? It can be quite overwhelming. But what if there was a way to stay informed, to be in the know, without having to wade through a sea of misinformation? I invite you to subscribe to the Great Pop Culture Debate newsletter, a curated collection of the most compelling discussions, the most insightful analyses, and yes, even a few controversial takes. Delivered directly to your inbox, it's your essential guide to navigating the fascinating world of movies, television, music, and more. Join us. Let us explore these cultural phenomenon together. Subscribe to the Great Pop Culture Debate newsletter at greatpopculturedebate.com because, as we all know, pop culture, it matters. And we are back for the final four of our Best X-Files episode debate. At this point in the show, I like to take a step back and see if it shook out the way I expected it to. So the final four is Clyde Bruckman's Final Repose, a 1 seed, versus Quagmire, a 3 seed. Home, a 1 seed, versus Bad Blood, a 1 seed. Is it the final four? I thought we'd have no. Number one, I did think we'd have a Tombs episode in here, but I think it went out when it needed to. Number two, I wanted to point out, not a single mythology episode is in the final four, and personally I think that is correct because it is one of the least satisfying elements of the show and the most confusing. The mythology is not why, I think it's why people were obsessed with the show, but it was not actually what the show was good at. As I think Bob alluded to, it was the horror of people.
The like mystery of the week type stuff,
Yep.
because that would allow for really exceptional, almost like short story like mini movies to happen.
Yeah, and I do think that there is a great point to be made that it worked because of the timing of the 90s. There was
Yes.
this very intense kind of internalized questioning of everything that was happening. And anyway, we're off topic. Clyde Bruckman's Final Repose versus Quagmire. I would like to start with Bob. Is it going to be Clyde Bruckman or Quagmire?
I love Queequeg, but I'm going to go with Clyde Bruckman.
As Kate said to me while I was watching that episode and texting with her, that dog longed for death. So
when he died, he reached his greatest destiny.
it's true. It's true. Kate, is it going to be Clyde Bruckman or Quagmire?
Always justice for Queequeg, love a lake monster, but Clyde Bruckman is an extraordinary episode of television.
Victor Manibo, Clyde Bruckman or Quagmire?
Clyde all the way. It was masterful. This episode was chef's kiss.
Yeah, I'm going to make it a clean sweep, and so Clyde will continue into the final two. Next, it's Home versus Bad Blood. We literally have not talked about Bad Blood at all, so I would invite my panelists to chime in. This is a favorite episode. I know, Victor, your partner, happens to love this episode. I believe it's his favorite episode of the show.
Yeah.
Actually, let's go with you first. Victor, is it going to be Home or Bad Blood?
For me, it's going to be Home, but I love Bad Blood. I think it has probably the best cold open in the entire show. It's just, there's a twist, then you're like, okay, what is going on? And it happens to be the funniest, in my opinion, the funniest episode of all the comedic episodes. It does something interesting with structure, with the Rashomon style, storytelling. We get Luke Wilson, who I love as an actor. Also, there is a lot of tension that is built up and layered really well, and the conceit of the vampire being a vampire media fan is so funny and creative, and like it makes sense that of course this is how this story would end up. So yeah, it's a really strong episode overall, but Home is where the heart is for me.
Quite literally, yes. Kate, is it going to be Home or Bad Blood for you?
This is really hard. Bad Blood.
I agree.
Written by Vince Gilligan. I remember watching it and thinking it was the funniest shit. So it's so funny because it's so specific, and it comes, I think is it the 5th season?
I can find that
The
out
4th
for
season.
you. Hold on for just
It
a
comes
second.
like late enough in the X-Files that like everyone knows, like it can make fun of itself.
Fifth
Season
season.
5.
5th season, yeah. It can sort of like make fun of itself and also like its own sort of like beats and stuff. The way that they both see each other and the way that like Mulder presents like a new case, like the way he says to Scully, "I hope you brought your cowboy boots," is the way Scully remembers it, and the way Mulder remembers it is like gently like passing an airline ticket across the desk and saying, "I hope you brought your cowboy boots." Like It's just really specific and funny.
It's not going to be that Mexican goat sucker thing, is it?
It's about how they see each other. It's about the things that you can sort of like make fun of about the show. It's about their insecurities. It's about how much they care that the other thinks about them. So it's another one for the shippers. But it's also a great like Monster of the Week episode that's about how Ronnie the vampire sees himself or wants to see himself, and how that is completely at odds with how his clan of vampires wants to see themselves and wants to keep a low profile. And like, if I were writing deep dive essays, I'm not. I'm just doing this podcast, which I'm so grateful for. This episode is an X-File because it's about the impossibility of one single truth. It's about the myth of objectivity. Everything is subjective. The truth will always be out there, just out of reach somewhere. It's so good. I've watched it more than any of the episodes probably because I'm like, I just want to see Luke Wilson with ridiculous teeth. and the scene where Scully is doing her autopsy and she's so over it and like the intestines are falling out of the scale, and it's just a perfect X-Files episode.
So are you voting for Bad Blood?
Yeah. Yes, I am.
She's voting for Bad Blood. Okay.
I am.
It's getting gaggy. Bob, is it going to be Home or Bad Blood?
It's gonna be Home. There is no funnier episode of the X-Files than Bad Blood. I'm going on record. I'm saying it. Print, everybody. It's decided. You all must be the government people. Like, come on. Like, to see Scully smitten, because she was legitimately smitten with this guy.
Absolutely.
That wasn't false in his telling. It's just it was different in his telling. But she was smitten. But she was smitten with this guy, and it's hysterical. But it's such a funny episode. It's such an easy one to watch. I just noticed that the pizza company is AB Pizza Company when I watched it the other day, regarding
Blood
AB
type.
blood. So it's a really nice touch as it pertains to that. But with Victor, like, home is where the heart is. And if I need to say more, I know you haven't voted yet, Eric. I have more to say about home, and I hope I get a chance to do so.
So these are really two extremes of the X-Files, right? Because Bad Blood is the funniest, and it's really like a relationship episode, and Home is terrifying. Home is terrifying, and yes, it is kind of about these two partners working together, but it's not about their relationship. It's about the case and like trying to solve a crime, which is actually not supernatural in this case. It is just the awfulness of human beings and what happens when you remain insular and do not progress. I think, Victor, you kind of alluded to this in your argument about it. It is people who are stuck in the past and refuse to move on with progress, and the ultimate end game from that, which I think we're all living through as I record this in 2025.
Relatable content,
right?
relatable content.
My mom is not under the bed, but who knows what will happen in a few years. So
You don't know that she's not under the bed.
God, if she did, she would have heard some terrible, unspeakable things. But
Well, not your bed.
I'm voting for Home on this one. And so I love Bad Blood. I'm glad we gave it its moment. Justice for the kid from The Sandlot, the ginger kid who is
Ronnie Strickland.
Ronnie Strickland.
The character, Ronnie Strickland.
But I'm giving it to Home, which is, and we'll talk more about it now because it's a final two of Clyde Bruckman's Final Repose versus Home, 2-1 seeds. I think these are the correct episodes. I would like to start with Kate Reculia. Is it Clyde or Home?
This is really hard, and I'm going to give it to Clyde. While also, I mean, if no one loses. Because it is more, it's still creepy. It's not really horror. There's more sort of like existential horror in this one that's a little more subtle. But I just think Clyde Bruckman is such an achievement, and also very much about what the X-Files is about in terms of the unknown and the mysterious. Yeah, I'm Clyde Bruckman in.
Ronnie Strickland, a.k.a. Bob, is it going to be Clyde Bruckman or Home for you?
So you all have collectively taken every talking point I have about home. I'm just going to say, like, I have nothing. There's plenty more to say. I could go on and on because it is about that inevitability of progress and our refusal to accept it. I think there's a lot of relatable content to that. There's the part about Scully, the motherhood piece to it. There's just that thing about family where you will justify and do what is right for your what you believe to be right, and you will go to the ends of the earth for your family, that all bets are off. It is again about the humanity and how we ourselves are our own worst enemies. We ourselves are really in a lot of ways can be the villain. And that is such a through line and such a theme in so many X-Files episodes. Let's talk about, it's a Glenn Morgan, James Wong, Glenn Morgan, Kim Manners directed, three legends, right? Firing on all cylinders with this. It is a beautiful, breathtaking episode. Yes, it is about grotesque people. It is about body horror. But that opening scene and the score for that opening scene where that man is weeping for the child as they are burying it, and it is so cinematic. The angles, the way that it is shot throughout the entire episode is so different, and so it's a movie. If there was ever an hour-long horror episode of the X-Files, this is it. And it is just so well made, so well written. It is so firing on all of those cylinders that I love it so much. And I love Clyde Bruckman as well. But there's just something special about home. Home is where the heart is, as Victor says, right? And it was banned for years. They would not replay it. It is the first episode of X-Files that had a content warning before it aired. It's just, everything about it is just so interesting and so special for the X-Files.
Victor, our special guest, is it going to be home or is it going to be Clyde Bruckman's final repose?
I am really torn here. Like, I literally don't know what to do. I haven't really talked about Clyde Bruckman
Welcome to
yet.
the great pop culture debate, my friend.
And
Yep.
the thing is, like,
what we do.
As I was listening to Kate, I know I lauded Home just a few minutes ago, but as I was listening to Kate, I'm like, yeah, like Clyde Bruckman is also a masterpiece. And if we're talking about big themes, it also does deal with those big themes of determinism and free will, which is really closer to the X-Files ethos. And looking back at an earlier, like, talking point that I made, Home, when I think about it, is, one could argue that it doesn't need to be an X-Files episode necessarily, whereas Clyde Bruckman necessarily is an X-Files episode because of the nature of the story and the themes that it was dealing with, and then the interaction between the two main characters is stronger in Bruckman than in Home, I think. And yet, Home has for itself the whole motherhood aspect and storyline for Scully, right? So again, my two sides are battling it out here.
It's those Mathis Love and Peacock boys for you, right?
I mean, listen, you know what? I like a man who knows how to deal with tools and stuff. So they're handy around the house.
They are that.
They're handy. They're handy. I mean, Bruckman ends with a suicide that feels beautiful.
Oh, yeah.
It's so good.
Yeah, it was very heartfelt. I think if I'm just going with like pure writing and emotion, I think Home was more evocative for me than Bruckman. And this is not something that we talked about a lot, but Home was beautifully shot, and the X-Files does do like cinematography well sometimes, and I don't think that gets talked about enough. And Home is very cinematic. I think I'm sticking with Home, but I might regret this in the morning.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine. Before I make my decision, I first would like some applause for not once in this entire episode sexually objectifying D.A. Skinner, who was a sexual awakening for me. And
you don't understand
began
how
my
much I was
lifelong-
resisting. I restrained myself.
I know, like absolutely quintessential to my lifelong love of daddies. We're just gonna say it. I have to say, I find myself going to Clyde Bruckman here. And I'm actually using Kate's argument. No, I'm using Victor's argument, which is Home could be an episode of another TV show. It absolutely could. It could be a Silence of the Lambs, right? There is nothing inherently supernatural about it, whereas Clyde Bruckman has all the character work and is about unexplained phenomenon, or paranormal phenomenon, images in the sky, government denies knowledge, like the things from the credits. To me, it is more quintessentially X-Files. It's also the Emmy-winning episode, which doesn't make it necessarily better, but I find myself gravitating more to Clyde Bruckman for this final decision. That's my thing. So, Bob, you're sticking with Home.
I can make an argument for Clyde Bruckman, and I'm happy to do so. Because I think you're right in the regards of about the paranormal piece to it, right? About that it also has to do with the believer and the non-believer of Mulder and Scully, and that doesn't exist in Home, right? It's not necessary for Home.
Right.
So I can understand the DNA of X-Files being more about Clyde Bruckman.
But you're sticking with Home.
If you need me to switch to Clyde Bruckman because we need to end this episode, I'm happy to do so.
Victor, you sticking with Home?
You know what? I think Clyde Bruckman is the most X-Files episode. Home is the best episode, I think. I'm sticking with Home.
I think that's a good qualifier. That's the needle of the thread, and I agree with it.
There
so let's do it.
There you have it. Our pick for the best X-Files episode is Clyde Bruckman's Final Repose. Do you agree? Do you think we need to be reported to Deputy Director Skinner? Tell us how you really feel by leaving a comment on this episode at greatpopculturedebate.com or find us on Blue Sky or Instagram. While you're there, make sure you subscribe and follow the podcast so you can hear about what new debates are coming soon, vote in open polls, and even decide which topics we tackle next. I want to say thank you to my panel. A very special thank you to Victor Manibo for joining us, and thank you for listening. If you loved what you heard, please consider supporting us on Patreon, where you can get even more exclusive content and you get episodes a whole day early. We hope you have a good one, and remember, everyone is entitled to their wrong opinion. Now, hey, what's with these bees and the black oil?